we're back on. Sorry about that. So without further ado, I'm going to let each of the industry people talk for 5 minutes about their companies, because these guys are not here as part of a consortium that bidding for Iris. They're here as individual companies that have an interest in Constellations one way or another, including Isbasad, who thinks that, for example,
And so our first service is dedicated to maritime surveillance. Our satellites locate vessels and human assets at sea. And we deliver data and services to various customers worldwide, so agencies, governmental agencies, private companies, oil and gas, fisheries, Coast Guard, all kinds of customers that are interested by knowing exactly what is happening at sea. And in fact, our data are very special in terms of coverage. Each data collection is very large. So compared to an optical images, which is quite small, 20 by 20 in average, our data collection coverage are more 500 kilometers by 500 kilometers. And with an accuracy below the kilometer, so very sufficient for maritime application. And with a top-rated latency and revisit rate. So we are today the world leader for this specific sector, and we can act day or night in all weather conditions because it's only RF, so no impacted by cloud or night. And our data are very complementary to other types of data. We are not saying that we are the best, the only one, forget all kinds of other data. Typically, it's very useful for tip and queue. We data collect, very large coverage, and when something interesting is detected, we can task an optical satellite, a SAR satellite, or send a plane, or whatever. So we call that optimization of the sensors and optimization of the way to act at sea. And we will continue to grow, launch new satellites, perhaps new services, and we are very proud to act in the European ecosystem. And just to jump on Iris Square, we were leading with Euroconsult a study that the European Commission gave to us with another consortium to deliver system engineering, ideas, missions, concepts, business cases, business plans for this Iris Square. So we were happy to contribute to the early phases, and now we'll see and discuss all the next steps.
Okay, you're very efficient with time, so I have a minute to ask you a couple of questions. So just to give people an idea of what you do, a ship who doesn't want to be seen will have a transponder on board to communicate with coastal authorities, but that can be switched off very easily.
Yeah, exactly.
So that leaves, Unseen Labs operates on the idea that they will have to have at least some basic navigation communications on board and activated, and you can pick that up to locate the ship.
In fact, it is all the electromagnetic environment of the vessel. Typically, we will never see wooden small vessels with no electronic inside, but a 10-meter private sailboat has electronics on board, and we will see them. So it's useful for 99% of the vessels at sea.
Down to the cell phone doesn't emit much power. Can you get down to cell phone level?
I will never say we are able to locate cell phone.
Okay. But a lot of other electronics, even a small ship, will have to maintain it for safe sailing.
Exactly, for safety, for whatever. Life at sea is very difficult. You have to avoid collision, whatever. So you need some electronic stuff.
Okay.
And typically, we are not looking for a small fisher, for small illegal fishers. We are looking for a huge fleet of organized illegal fishing or organized crime at sea. So with no transponder or whatever, so it's very useful.
And you have 9 satellites in orbit now?
Yep.
And you would say your optimal constellation is what size?
We say between 25 and 30, but again, It's a rough number because some of the satellites will reach end life. We have to relaunch some of them, and in fact, it's very business driven. For now, we are not enough satellite to deliver all the customers that want to pay for an unseen lab subscription. So we have to launch more. It's a production tool for us.
Fair enough. Okay, very good. Well, we might have time to come back to that, although Iris is a big piece of beef that we have to chew on today. So, Antonio, about Hispasat. Tell us what you want to say about why Hispasat is here talking about constellations today.
Good morning, thank you. Hispasat is a satellite operator that is making business essentially in Europe, north of Africa, and North and South America. We operate geostationary satellites, and in this transformation period of the satellite industry, where we are moving to providing connectivity with the satellites, I think that there are two important elements that we have that we are implementing. One is that we are moving forward in the value chain and becoming service providers. So we are providing something more than capacity to our customer. We are providing services to our customers. And because of that, we are not only providing the capacity that we operate, but we are providing capacity from third parties. And we are providing capacity to third parties. So now we are selling capacity to the Intelsat, Star Ones. We are buying capacity from Eutelsat. We are buying capacity from SES. Because the important is that we need to provide satellite solutions to our customers. And within that scope, we have identified that part of the demand, especially in the B2B, has some specific requirements related to latency and security that can be very well fit with an NGSO infrastructure. And because of that, we are already providing services to our customer, buying NGSO capacity from third parties. And we see that IRIS² is a great opportunity to go further in that business and to implement a constellation that can provide services, especially for these two kinds of application, that is latency, low latency applications and high security applications. And I think, as we say, that IRIS² is a great opportunity. Also, at industrial level, we believe that IRIS² is a very important opportunity for Europe. We think that today the geo market is led by the European industry. I think that everybody will agree that the software-defined satellites that are being built by the European industry has no equal in the rest of the world. And we need to be able to do the same thing. We need also to lead from an industrial point of view. We need to lead the industrial capacity in the non-geostationary orbit also. And we believe that IRIS² is a great opportunity and is the opportunity of Europe to build this capability. So there is a conjunction of the appetite from the operator's point of view to give some further services to our customers using this infrastructure. And there is also the strategic vision of enabling the European industry to keep the leadership in the world on the NGSO infrastructure.
Okay, so you believe in it as a good thing when somebody else is building it, but you didn't believe in it enough to build your own.
The point is, that is a very interesting question. The point is that it is very difficult to justify a business case only by the purely commercial business case. So it is very important, and this is why it's working very well, the structure to make a PPP where both the public and the private, we are merging, we're joining forces, and we are building something that has the scale enough to be able to make it work. Because at the end, you're right, in order to make our business plan work, we need to have the commercial segment, but we also need what it is called by the Commission, the light gov services. Today, Hispasat, without talking about IRIS², Hispasat revenue, 30% of Hispasat revenue comes from what it is called now by the Commission light gov services. We are already providing light gov services in KA commercial bands. It is very important, and I think that complements very well the business case, this light gov segment, And third, it is also an important business line, or it will be an important business line, the hosted payload. They will give us an opportunity to create new business cases through PNT, through ATM, through Earth observation, signal intelligence. I mean, this is opening a whole world of new opportunities. And this, the overall, is what it works and where we have been able to build the business case. So this is why it's so important, the PPP with the Commission and the capability to create all these synergies between the different businesses.
Fair enough. We'll get into that. So very quickly now, you said you're already buying non-geostationary satellite capacity from others. Who?
I think the answer should be very simple. How many operating NGSOs are there today? My friend, I have to recognize, I buy from my friend Rui.
In MIA, okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, Rui Pinto of SES. I should say here, without wanting to embarrass Rui, because it probably wasn't something he expected, but we're now talking to the acting CEO of SES, as well as the CTO of SES, because Steve Collard, the CEO, has decided to leave and pursue other interests. So Rui, thanks for being here anyway. So give us 5 minutes of how SES views the Constellation business.
Oh, thanks, Peter. And thanks for the comments. It's a good segue. So we are in a disrupted market. SES has been operating a MEO constellation for the last 10 years in MEO and has been operating it commercially and successfully. But we recognize that that's no longer good enough. We are investing in new MEO capabilities, as we all know. We are going to have our new generation of MEO satellites and power in service by the end of the year. We will continue investing, and we are changing. SES is changing, the market is changing, and we are changing our thinking as well. We were on record years ago, Peter knows that, saying that LEOs don't make...
Closer to your mouth.
Oh.
It's not the Commission who said it.
Well, you have to follow the advice of your customer, I have to say. So we have been changing our thinking about multi-orbit constellations. We don't think it about LEO, MEO, or GEO. It's all an integrated multi-orbit architecture. It has to be integrated. We have to have inter-satellite links. The technology is there now. We have to have MEO, we have to have GEO, and we have to have LEO. They all have a place to play. And SES has changed its thinking around this over the last few years. And I mentioned Empower, I mentioned our MEO, but we have to go beyond that. And on that point, IRIS, as everybody is going to say, right, we wouldn't be in this panel if we thought that IRIS 2 was a bad idea, right? You wouldn't have invited us. So IRIS is a great opportunity. And when SES looks at IRIS, it's not just the European component, although the European component is vital. By nature, when you create a multi-orbit architecture, you create a global architecture. And that global architecture can serve Europe, can be secure, can be resilient, but it has an upside for companies like Hispasat and SES to invest, have shared infrastructure, and be able to provide commercial service on the back of what the European Commission is building. And that's very important to SES. And the final point is that we don't look at IRIS as a short-term initiative. The Commission has shown that when they invest, like they did on Galileo, they did on Copernicus, they invested for the long term. SES is looking at it for the long term. This is not just the next 5 years, the next contract. It's an opportunity for Europe and for the industrial players and startups to build on that for the future generations. And I have to say, Peter, that I did read your tweet on IRIS 2 earlier. I loved it, where you are. There's a great analogy: Star Wars versus IRIS. But I do take exception to the casting that you put there. Where the consortium seems to be some sort of empire. My view is, and I'll be open on that. My view is that if you look outside Europe, the empire is outside Europe. It's in China, it's in the US, in companies like SpaceX and Kuiper. They're not waiting for us. We, in the consortium, we look at ourselves as, the rebels, the New Republic rebels. I never thought about Antonio as a Jedi warrior, right? I mean, it took some time for me to get my head around that, but, I'm warming up, and I think your analogy is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see about that. Louis, some of the people on the web are going to understand a couple of things you just said, so I'll back it up, not now, but in a minute. There is a consortium that bid for IRIS2. There's no one been selected for IRIS2 yet. There's not even a full RFP yet, but we'll get that in a minute. But one last one for you, Rui. So you are investing in a very interesting, high-powered, medium Earth orbit, second-generation constellation called Empower. Okay. Empower is mainly, it's 11 satellites, it's mainly in orbit, but it's going to be completely in orbit by the end of the year, I guess, and it'll be commercially switched on by the end of the year. I think you've invested something around $2 billion US in Empower. That's approximately right. And you still want to invest in IRIS2. Don't answer, because you've already invested a lot in a non-geo constellation that just goes around the equator, and it's not as low orbit as others. It's at 8,000 kilometers, which means you don't need as many satellites, which is why with 11, they're perfectly fine, thank you. But SES has already invested a lot in non-geo. It'll be interesting to find out later on, not now, how you expect to squeeze the non-geo revenue stream further with another constellation. Let me move on to Hervé Dury of Thales Linear Space. Hervé, you have 5 minutes. Tell us about Thales.
I have 5 minutes. You told me that I could speak about anything about apart from the weather, but I'm going to talk about constellations if you agree. So I guess everybody in the room knows Thales Linear Space. We are a European-based world leader in space infrastructure addressing telecom, observation, exploration, navigation, and science. Few words on the market itself. We see the market of SATCOM constellations as a growing market, simply driven by the demand, with possibly the possibility for space this time to grab part of the terrestrial telecom market, especially through constellations. And when talking about SATCOM constellations, we see two markets: the broadband solutions, that is, let's say, the core of our discussions today, addressing aero, cruise, backhauling, enterprise, and home consumer markets. And here we see a clear, let's say, trend in moving to the multi-orbit approaches that we believe are more cost-effective and better than, let's say, a monolayer approach. Indeed, of course, Leo, MEO, providing a lower latency and a global coverage. And we also believe that there is room for more than one or two constellations, broadband constellations worldwide. So it's not going to be only Starlink and Kuiper. We believe there is a room for more than that. And then there is also the narrowband solutions, narrowband being IoT, but also direct-to-device, which is also an emerging market, and there are emerging needs in that domain. We have seen the first announcement coming from Iridium and Apple, with modest services at this stage, but we believe that there will be more interesting services with higher performance and higher bandwidth. And we have announced Thales Linear Space technical agreement with Qualcomm and Ericsson in that domain. It's interesting to see that there are commonalities between these two let's say, market segments. I'm going to insist on two interesting aspects to be factored in, and that are, in my view, of interest for IRIS². The first one relates to the adoption of 3GPP 5G standards. That is a very interesting approach to reduce or to improve the competitiveness of our solutions, looking at the entire value chain, not only the space segment, but also the ground segment. That's an avenue that we want to take, and that we are pushed in that direction in the IRIS² program, and we are very supportive of that because we believe in this 3GPP 5G standard. The second point is more and more we see very strong requirements around security, cybersecurity, being able to resist to cybersecurity threats. I think the Ukraine war has demonstrated that this is not a nice to have, it's a must have, and it's a domain in which we also, let's say, invest significantly, and we leverage the competence that we have in Thales Group. So in this domain of, let's say, SATCOM constellations, we have a strong experience, a strong expertise. from an end-to-end system standpoint, we have also a very strong expertise in digital payload that are key. In fact, the regenerative digital payloads are going to be key for the performance of this future constellation. I would call them the third generation constellations. And we have demonstrated, let's say, that we have a strong experience in that field. As you said, there are 3 constellations that are live today that have been built by Thales and Space, Global Star, O3B, currently used by SES, as well as Iridium more recently. Just talking about constellations, of course, constellation is not only about SATCOM. It also touches other domains. Observation constellations are also very trendy these days. I mean, with a number of programs, we are involved in Black Sky, which is an observation constellation for optical observation, extremely effective. But also in radar constellations, we recently won a program in the recovery plan of Italy called IRID, in which we will provide a radar, let's say a radar constellation. And constellations also apply to navigation. And here the most recent trend is around LEO PNT, which is going to be a potential application for RE2 as well, and on which we have worked for quite a long time, and we want to position ourselves as well. So this is it in a nutshell. We are present in a number of domains of constellation, and we want to have a strong contribution in RE2 in our role of, let's say, infrastructure architect member to strongly contribute to that program together with our colleagues from the consortium.
All right, Errol, you've got a couple of seconds here. You might want to, if you don't, I will. There's been, to my knowledge, only one LEO commercial constellation that's demonstrably profitable. Took them some time, but the Iridium Next constellation that Thales built, second generation constellation after Iridium went bankrupt in the 1990s, and a $5 billion investment was sold for $25 million. That was the bad side of it. Iridium later came out of their struggles, was able to put together enough money with French Export Credit Agency to purchase a second generation from Thales, and Iridium now is paying dividends to its shareholders. It's a very profitable company. I wonder, do you wish you'd invested in some of the Iridium equity as part of your contract with building that?
I would, yeah, we should have done it. Yes, we should have done it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Every time I meet Matt Desch, I see a very happy customer. I mean, he's indeed producing so much profits that I think, yes, we should have invested at the first place. You're right.
Yes, it's an amazing story. It really is the Iridium story. All right, I'm moving over to the European Commission now, and Catherine Cavada. So, Catherine, with you, we're not going to be talking about the nebulas, constellations all over the world, current and future. IRIS². Okay, give us a couple of minutes of where the Commission is with IRIS² and what the next steps are. I should have brought a slide here where you've got your schedule between now and February of 2024, I think. It's a very aggressive schedule. If I had to bet, I'd bet you're not going to meet that schedule, but that's not a criticism. It's just that you've got a lot of stuff on your plate, and meeting that schedule of signing a contract in February. I think you even had a date, a specific date. I don't know if you had the time of day, but you had a specific date. But where are you now with IRIS² and what are the next steps?
Peter, first of all, thank you very much for the photo. 20 years ago, I really appreciate it. Number 2, IRIS, from time to time you call it IRIS², from time to time you call it IRIS². Just to give you a scoop about it, it's an acronym. It means Infrastructure for Resilience, Interconnectivity, and Security by Satellite. So Commissioner Breton, genius as engineer, and not only, he decided to use the mathematical symbol of squared as we have a double S at the end. So this is the IRIS². As you said, it's no more a dream, it's no more a theoretical vision, but it's already a program with objectives and, most important for everybody, especially this panel, budget, and a considerable budget until 2027. Once we adopted last March officially the regulation, we continue with the same pace, aggressive, as you said, because we have the same aggressive schedule in the European Commission. It's implementation. implementation that will be based on 3 phases, consecutive phases. We already launched and concluded the first phase in almost 2 months period. It was a very important phase in order to be sure that IRIS² will be put in place by a European industrial ecosystem. So we went through the eligibility criteria, the participation conditions, and we came up with a result. I know that everybody would like to hear today from my mouth which was the result of the very first phase. I saw also some tweets, some articles on the web yesterday. Unfortunately, I'm not the one who will feed your tweets for today because I'm bound by the financial regulations. So all that I can say is that already since May the 30th, we've inaugurated the second phase with European companies, with European consortia. And yesterday already, we kick off the very first exchange of views. You are talking about empires. I think that we are in Europe, and in Europe, we promote the democratic values. So we will proceed with dialogues, not with parallel monologues. This is the objective of the second phase. Yeah. The industrial ecosystem already pre-selected will be in a position to provide us by the 7th of August and not end of July, as it was said yesterday on the web, an initial proposal that will be evaluated by the European Commission in the course of August, and we will start the dialogues September, October, November. I think this will be 3 terrible months for everybody. For the industry, this aggressive procurement schedule create collateral damages, in particular vis-à-vis the holidays, the summer holidays of a number of companies, not only the well-established but also the SMEs, because they have to work very hard in order not to provide me an executive summary of an idea by August, but a solid proposal from a technical, financial, business and security point of view. I need, and I said it yesterday as well, that the proposal should be mature in order to touch upon the right level, the mature level of dialogues, and be in a position to entering into the third and last phase of the procurement somewhere in November, December, with the best and final offer, where we will be in a position by February next year to award and sign a contract. You said it aggressive, we call it dynamic. We always try to have the right and motivated terminology. It is challenging. I will never say that it's the easiest program that we can run. I'm a Galileo girl for 25 years. I contribute to that program. I still continue. I know what it is to have problems, but I know how we can solve the problems and go ahead with the solutions.
All right. Fair enough. All right, let me just give the audience a background here, especially on the web, for those who might be less aware of the state of play. So the Commission, a couple of months ago, asked anybody who thought they might want to bid on the program to make themselves known and give the Commission some basic data on their revenues, their security arrangements, and other criteria. How European are you? And the Commission got 5 responses. 4 of the responses were really for companies that didn't think they were going to be the concession leader of IRIS², sorry. They made bids for whatever reasons, and the Commission said thank you, but no thank you. That left one empire standing. And that was SES, Eutelsat, Hispasat, Airbus Defence and Space, Thales Alenia Space, OHB, Orange, Deutsche Telekom, Hisdesat, Telespazio. Who am I missing? I think it was OHB as well. So you've got the 3 system prime contracts.
He tried to test me.
The 3 system prime contractors for satellite manufacturing in Europe, OHB, Thales Alenia Space, and Airbus are in there. The 3 biggest satellite fleet operators in Europe, Airbus Defence and Space has some satellites as well, but I'm mainly thinking of Hispasat, SES, and Eutelsat. Eutelsat has a constellation of its own called OneWeb that they're going to be mainly the owner of when that transaction closes in the next few months. So you've got the big consortium in Europe that is now the tentatively chosen candidate. So Catherine can't say more than she can say, but I'm going to push her to find out what the limits are. This is a consortium that seems like it's one of those things that's too big to fail. If you have at the other side, on the other side of the table, a supplier that's too big to fail, we've seen this story before, not just here, but in the United States as well. So that's going to be an issue. The first question for Catherine is, I think that this first bidding round of who's going to be the concession leader is followed by other competitive rounds that the Commission will conduct. So this isn't the end of the story, right?
It's just the beginning. And I have to say that once you have, I think that doesn't work. Not mine. No, it's okay. It's back. It's back. So I said that we have 3 phases. The fact that somebody passed the first one doesn't qualify it as the winner.
But it's a good start.
But it's a perfect start because we see not only a multi-orbital constellation of satellites, we can see as well a multi-orbital intelligence of all the European industrial ecosystem. We have all the intelligence that we need. Okay?
All right.
Something very important, I think that there is a sabotage, but my voice goes and comes. But I will continue because I'm still young. We're talking about a PPP, something very important. Whenever the European Commission opts for a PPP, we said it several times, we don't looking of an osmosis of our mutual interest. I will not become a commercial leader, and the respective industrial partners, they will not become institutional leaders. We just join efforts, budgets, visions, objectives, but we continue to keep our ID. So within this PPP, the European Commission will definitely ensure, and this is an obligation, a regulatory obligation, that I will go to the sovereign part of that system. And it's, if you want, an objective on which we will not compromise a second and a centimeter or a millimeter.
Right.
On the other side, they will invest, the partners, so they will promote their interest. There, the only thing that I have as an objective is to enable them to do it.
Okay, so I'll ask about the investment in a second. First for Jonathan, again, of Unseen Labs. So you were part of a consortium, a group of small companies, not all small, that were invited by the Commission a year or so ago to put together some ideas. So it was another a consortium of mainly small companies. So then time passes, and I'm sorry, where are the Jedi Knights? Why didn't you bid when you had a chance to bid with other companies for the first phase? What happened?
Honestly, I don't know. We are waiting for. We are actively waiting, discussing with everybody here. So we are not part of the main consortium, but we are well known by each members, and we are waiting for real requirements. What to do, in what condition also, because we are a small company, we have business to protect. By protect, I mean develop. Iridium Next is not the only very profitable constellation in the world. Mine also is. So, joke apart, I have a business to develop. So, should I split my forces or to follow a big program? I want to, but I don't know if I will be able to. So I'm speaking about Unseen Labs, speaking about more SMEs. They have IP to protect, also business to protect.
Yeah, but that's true of everybody.
Yeah.
My question to you is not why Unseen alone, but why didn't you get together the group of small companies to show an aggregate revenue of 500 million, make your bid to the Commission when there was a deadline, and so right now, instead of looking at just one consortium as the successful bidder, we might have two.
It's not a secret. We are actively building that, but it's not public. because it's
You're
too
not bidding it
dangerous.
as a lead, to lead the concession. You want to be
I
part
mean
of,
SMEs,
yes.
not Unseen Labs as a leader. Unseen Labs, we are high in the ecosystem, but you have marvelous other SMEs in Europe, in space, but also you said it on the ground, because a big part of the capex will be also the ground terminals, and you have to produce a ground terminal that is very efficient, low cost, built in millions of items.
Right.
So it's a challenge. And 5G also, you have numerous SMEs that are perfectly tuned and perfectly efficient in terms of terrestrial telco.
Right, but they didn't bid either. They've sort of aggregated themselves into a bid that might be now the second bid, instead of now the commission has only one bidder that succeeded.
Yeah, we will see.
Okay. All right, for Antonio and
Peter,
Rui.
if you allow me. May I?
Yeah, please, please.
First of all, for us, the participation of the SMEs is not a simple procurement requirement. For the European Commission and within the Irish Squared, it's more a policy and a strategic vision towards the shift of paradigm in the way that we are doing business in Europe. So the at least 30% that we want to promote will be implemented, and this is one of the issues where we will not compromise as well.
Okay, 30% of the
total price.
So 2.4 billion over 7 years is what you've
Plus,
got. So I've got like 750 million that will be set aside for SMEs, right?
I know that you have. I'm not very strong in mathematics, so I will not making all these calculations with you right now. But first of all, we're not talking about the 2.4 billions. We're talking about a market of 6 billion already. This is what we procure. It's not a procurement for some years until 2027. We have at least 12 years contract. This is what we procured, and our objective is to go far beyond these 12 years. And the message for the SMEs, I noticed as well your question when you said the European Commission could be happy to see you the 26th of April, but le train est toujours à la gare. Okay? So we have the second phase, and the second phase, according to the regulation and what we ask the pre-selected bidders, is to go ahead with competitive tendering approach. Even if you have one consortium or more than one, the share of the work should take place in the context of competitive tendering.
Okay. All right.
And they have a great chance.
All right.
And
So for Antonio and Rui, and if Eutelsat was here, the same thing. So when you look at the people who are bidding for IRIS2, and you say, where can I get money to invest? They're looking first at SES and Eutelsat and Hispasat. I don't think they're looking at Unseen Labs as a potential investor. They might not even be looking at a hardware manufacturer like Thales Alenia Space as an investor, although I'll ask Hervé in a moment. They're looking at you guys. So pretend you're meeting your board of directors and you say, I want to invest a couple of €100 million in Iris Squared. And one of the guys on your board says, okay, when does that money come back in terms of profit? What do you tell them?
So I'll have a go. First, Peter, I have to take exception to the too big to fail comparison that you're making, right? The market cap of the 5 companies in this consortium is dwarfed by the valuation of SpaceX and Amazon. Are we the too big to fail? My thesis, our thesis, I think, is that if we do nothing, we are failing, right? That's the thesis. So when I go to your question, when I go to my board of directors, the SES board of directors, and this is risky talking on behalf of the board of directors, right? But looks at SES as a long-term investor and player. Even in GEO, Antonio and I, we go and invest, and we expect a return over 15 years on a GEO satellite. That's our business. So going to our board of directors and explaining an IRIS2 construct where you have a government component, you have shared infrastructure, you have upside opportunities, you have new ideas from SMEs, This is not an outrageous proposal. Of course, it has to make financial sense, but it has to make financial sense over the long run. We are in this business for the long run. That's our business. And I think the Commission and our boards of directors, they understand that. And we expect to have a return, but we are patient. We look at it from a long-term perspective.
Yes, I'm going to repeat myself and repeat what Rui is saying. I mean, at the end of the day, we are used to this long-term business. We are used to buy this infrastructure and wait for get the return of the investment. And essentially, I mentioned at the beginning that there are several commercial lines that we are convinced that we are going to provide revenue with those commercial lines, which are related to latency, to high security. We are also convinced that like-gov services are going to increase with this constellation. And we also believe that hosted payloads will open new opportunities. We strongly believe that there is a business case that we are ready to defend in our board of directors to get their support to invest in the infrastructure. So beyond what we are saying, I mean, there are two aspects here. And one aspect is very well explained by the Commission and by the industry about the strategic view of the constellation. And Rui was also mentioning that if we are not doing something now, probably the situation in 5-10 years from now, and this also relates to the too big to fail, is that there will be no European industry, or the European industry will be a niche industry, and the European satellite operators will be a niche part of the operators. So I think there is this strategic vision, but there is also this commercial view of the constellation that we, the operators, have, and we are ready to put money on that and to defend in our board of directors.
Okay, so Rui, SES has a very formal financial policy of you have to guarantee to your directors an internal rate of return before every investment. Have you already passed that cap with Iris Squared? Or is still yet to do? You're not yet done?
No, Peter, we are yet to do, right? I mean, Catherine was clear, right? You know, we didn't win anything here, right? I mean, there is no cake to put to make it clear. When we are in the position, hopefully, of presenting a business case, then we'll have a discussion about the hurdle rates and the cost of capital and internal rate of returns, like all of us do. But we are not yet there.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Hervé, are you and Airbus and OHB system primes among those that will be asked to put some money of your own in the project, or do you look at this as a hardware and service provider in a conventional sense?
I think there is nothing conventional in that program. So, no, so definitively we have a role within the consortium, which is to provide the end-to-end, to provide the architecture, in fact, to provide the infrastructure of this program, and we play in that role as a matter of fact. But of course, let's say looking at the different, I can't talk for Airbus and OHB. I would like to, but I can't do that. As you know, on our side, we formed together with Telespadio the so-called Space Alliance. Telespadio is also part of the, let's say, of the core team of this program, and as such, let's say the same applies for us as a Space Alliance, meaning that looking at service revenue, we can have indeed flying business cases and therefore invest. So this is, and we are totally open to that approach as well as a Space Alliance.
Interesting. Okay. Catherine, how you see how much time we have left? Not much. So you've got 90 seconds only because the commission is the commission. So you get the 90 seconds. Are you asking, how much money do you need? Well, let's put it this way. You have raised 2.4 billion euros for the next, through 2027. Okay? The European Space Agency, if they like how you set up your industrial team, and if there's enough French content, they have 600 million euros they're willing to put in as well. So let's call that 3. But of course, the European Space Agency distributes money by geographic return. If you invest in here, in say, Greece, and the Greek industry gets a part. So that might be complicated, but let's just call it 3. And you've talked about 6 billion euros. Is industry coming up with the other 3 billion?
Peter, we're talking about a sprint marathon here. So
I'm sorry, what?
A sprint, I have to go fast, but it will be a marathon as well. It will last, okay? This is the oxymoron.
All right, okay.
Okay. One point about the European Space Agency and the geographical return. According to their optional program, ESA will contribute to the consortium selected by the European Commission. So we will not change, if you want, the balance and the equilibrium as it was discussed and agreed within the European Union. Of course, they are bound by their own rules, and we will see by September which of these countries already demonstrated a willingness to pay will follow. They will come back, or they will even increase. So to be seen. This is why I say it's a marathon. We will have a lot of time in front of us.
Understood. Where does that other 3 billion come
all
from?
that I said is, as public sector, we will contribute to the amount. If it is 6, if it is 7, 8, 9, 10, I will see during the dialogue where we will come up. And then, we said it from the very first time, we are talking about a blending, an intelligent blending of resources. So a big part or a significant part will come from the public sector for what we would like to get. And this is not only under the present multi-annual financial framework, so until 27, but if the contract will last for 12 years, we have at least 2 other MFFs in front of us where the public sector will come and contribute. We will see up to which level. And then the European Space Agency could continue, or member states individually. Yep. This is also foreseen. And last but not least, the private sector. I think that all that we have to see in this marathon, that it is solid for the public sector to get what we would like in order to pay, and for the private sector to get the business case that will justify a significant amount of money. But it's not only about money. We have to see the final objective. And
I know. When
as
people
a
say
lady, I don't want to talk only about money.
Yes, I know. You'd like to talk about strategic stuff. But, you know, a head of Airbus, I think it was, once said to journalists, you journalists should understand, when we use the word strategic, that means we don't make a dime on it. That's what strategic means. It's not for money. It's just for love. Anyway, they're about to give us prosperity. They're about to give us the hook here, so we're a little late. So thank you very much, and join me in thanking the panel.